Hi guys, firstly I apologise for the lack of updates. I've been busy with an array of projects, but it's good to be back talking about the books that I've been reading. And today I want to talk about a book that's been sitting with me for a while because it does something that a lot of historical fiction tries and fails to do. It takes one of the darkest periods in modern history and finds a genuinely human story inside it without even letting you forget how dangerous that world was. The book is Blackout, by Simon Scarrow, and for anyone who does not know him, Simon Scarrow is one of Britain's most successful historical novelists. He's been known for the Eagles of the Empire series, his long-running sequence about a Roman legionary called Macro and his officer Cato, which has run, I think, for about over 20 books now. He's also written about Napoleon and Wellington, and tracing that the parallel life story from birth to the Battle of Waterloo. But what's interesting about Scarrow is his background. He actually was a history teacher and lecturer before becoming a full-time novelist, and you can really feel that in his work. He's not someone bolting a love story onto a Wikipedia summary of a war. He builds the world first, and the story grows out of it. So with Blackout, this was published in 2021. Scarrow steps away from Rome and Napoleonic Europe and moves into the 20th century, into Berlin, right at the start of the Second World War. It's the first book in the Schenke series, sometimes called the Berlin Wartime Thriller series, and it's a real change of gear for him. Blackout is set in Berlin in December 1939. War has just started, but for the German public, it hasn't really arrived yet. No bombs are falling, no real fighting close to home, but what's arrived instead is control. The city is under a strictly enforced blackout every night so that Allied bombers can't use the lights to navigate. And that's the detail the whole book is built around, because a total blackout doesn't just protect a city from bombers, it hides everything else too. Into that darkness, a young woman is found raped and murdered, and that's where we meet our protagonist. Our lead is Criminal Inspector Horst Schenke. He's head of the Pankow police station in Berlin, and Scarrow does something clever with him from the start. And Schenke comes from an aristocratic background and used to be a professional racing driver, until a serious crash left him with a permanent limp and ended that career. So he's already a man who's lost one identity, and basically he's had to build a second one. The first thing that defines Schenke politically is almost an absence. He hasn't joined the Nazi Party. In 1939, Berlin, that's not a neutral position, as we all know. It marks him out, his superiors are suspicious of him for it, and it means he's constantly walking a line where the wrong word, the wrong case, the wrong person offended could cost him everything. And Scarrow doesn't make a secret resistant hero either. He's not smuggling people out of the country or, plotting against Hitler. He's just a policeman trying to do his job honestly in a system that punishes honesty. That restraint is what makes him believable. And when the murder victim turns out to be connected to people with real power in the regime, Schenke is handed the case specifically because he's seen as expendable. Someone, you could say, who can be blamed if he goes wrong. And he has no party connections to protect him if he does. Without giving away the ending, the investigation pulls Schenke in directions that keep intersecting with the machinery of the Nazi state itself. A second victim turns up, confirming this isn't a one-off case. And as Schenke digs, he finds that different arms of the regime, the Gestapo, the Kripo detective police he actually belongs to. You've got the SS and their agendas, and they're all watching each other as closely as they're watching him. Now, what Scarrow does really well is use the murder investigation as a lens. Every door Schenke knocks on opens into a different piece of how the regime actually functioned day to day. The paperwork, the informants, the favours owed, the fear that sits underneath ordinary conversations. It reads as a detective story and a political thriller running side by side, and neither one is just to serve the other. And this is where I think the book earns its keep as historical fiction, rather than just a thriller wearing a period costume. Scarrow shows rationing, the cold, which you really feel in this book. The way people have started watching what they're saying, even to neighbours they've known for years. It shows how ordinary policing, actual criminal investigation, the kind that that existed before 1933 and would exist after 1945, and has bent completely out of shape by ideology. A murder isn't just a murder anymore. It's a question of who the victim was connected to, who might be embarrassed by the truth coming out, and who has the authority to bury it. There's also a real sense of how fear reshapes ordinary behaviour. People inform on each other, not out of belief, but self-preservation. Officials protect their own position first, and the truth a distant second. It's the texture of society where everyone is calculating all the time what's safe to say. And the politics in Blackout aren't background noise. They're the terrain Schenke has to navigate. Scarrow lays out the rivalries between different branches of the regime. The Gestapo under Himmler's structure. You've got Goebbels' propaganda. The military intelligence side under Canaris. And the ordinary criminal police that Schenke belongs to. All competing influence and territory. Nobody in the system fully trusts anybody else, and Schenke's investigation keeps stepping into the space between these factions, which is exactly where he has most exposed. That's Schenke's real challenge that we find out in this book. More than the murderer himself, he has to solve the case, yes, but he has to also solve it in a way that doesn't implicate the wrong person, doesn't embarrass the wrong official, and doesn't get him arrested for asking the wrong questions in the wrong office. It's investigation under constant political calculation, and Scarrow keeps that pressure present on almost every page. What I appreciated most about Blackout is that it resists the easy version of this story. I mean, it would have been simple to write a secret hero working against the regime from within, or to write the Nazi officials as cartoonish. Scarrow doesn't do either. Schenke survives by keeping his head down and doing his job properly, which is its own kind of quiet defiance. And the officials around him are frightening precisely because they're recognisable. Careerists, the likes of bureaucrats, people protecting what they have. If you love historical fiction, and especially if you love it when the history isn't just wallpaper, when the period itself creates the tension, rather than decorating it. I think Blackout is well worth your time. It's a detective story, but it's also a genuine, thoughtful piece of writing about what it costs to stay decent in a system built to punish decency. So yeah, that's Blackout by Simon Scarrow. If you've read it or you've read further into the Schenke series, please let me know your thoughts. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care. And like I always say, guys, happy reading.